Good morning, wrestling fans. Welcome to PWR today for Wednesday morning, April 14th, 2021. The man they call Meathead, joined by Matthew Thomas. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning, Meathead.
Whoa, don't get excited. If you're hot, say you're hot. Wow.
First time I've talked to you since a WrestleMania extravaganza.
The WrestleMania extravaganza. So, let's talk about it because we had Linda review night 2 and we didn't get to hear from the man they call Matthew Thomas. Let's also talk about our sponsors real quick here. Manscaped.com, making sure that you are silky smooth like Dave the Zohan Hero. 20% off with the promo code PWR at manscaped.com. And we've got a new promo code that we're using. We used it yesterday morning for the first time. Promo code Linda K, K-A-Y, will save you 10% at collarandelbowbrand.com. That's right, the Linda K promo code. Make sure you're going to collarandelbowbrand.com using Linda K, K-A-Y. Matthew, before we get into what happened on NXT last night and talk about All Elite Wrestling Dynamite tonight, now that we have wrestling 5 nights a week, let's talk about your thoughts on night 2 of WrestleMania. Your highs, your lows, what unexpected happened to you?
I'm going to start off with the highs. I love the main event. I think it was one of the most enjoyable main events for me personally. I'm not talking objectively, how the match went or overall importance in the historical landscape of WWE, but I mean just overall fun main events. I thought they hit a home run with that.
So let me ask you, did you enjoy it because it was the main event of WrestleMania that you didn't get last year and you had a crowd there? Do you enjoy it because of the novelty of having fans back or because it was the triple threat that was told in a great story?
I saw a sentence a few days ago and it said, imagine going back in time to April of 2018 and telling somebody in 3 years you're going to have Roman, Edge, and Daniel Bryan in the main event. The whole Edge thing was, just seemingly not on anybody's radar. Roman, I believe at the time, was out with the leukemia battle. And Bryan, with his history of injury, I think that was during one of his, probably general manager roles. And just really putting it into perspective of where all 3 of these guys have been and actually seeing them headline a WrestleMania, I think that was the main point for me.
So it wasn't necessarily the fact that, we're in a main event in a rain-soaked, again, look what happened in Tampa with the lightning going on, no pun intended, with the hockey team. But look what happened over the weekend. I mean, we had videos from David the Zohan Hero featuring Damian Nelson and, Al Snow and Jessica as well, and Linda Kay, all in a house that they rented, it leaking, it pouring so hard that it was leaking. So, I mean, yeah, Roman Reigns, Edge, and Daniel Bryan, and all 3 came to play. So that's your high. That's your highlight of the night. Tell me about the rest.
I thought the overall pacing on night 2 left a little bit to be desired. And when I say that, I mainly mean opening up with Randy Orton and The Fiend. That was one of those.
Weird.
It was, and not just the finish, but the red light. You got a red hot crowd, no pun at all intended. I didn't even think about that when it left my lips there. But you've got a crowd ready for night 2, and right off the gate you mess with the lighting in the arena, and I think they were trying to get it out of the way because the finish was strange, but I don't think that was the right move to open the show. Some strange production stuff too to open the show. We had our second night of America the Beautiful. Did you find it strange they would cut from the live America the Beautiful to the superstars from the night before when they were all out on the ramp? So you go live and you go last night. That was one of the strangest things that I'd ever seen.
The first thing I noticed, and I didn't bring this up with Linda, the first thing I noticed is whoever the artist was playing guitar, and you see her looking at a producer or something like right on the hard camera side. Yeah. And I saw her give a no and then a yes, and then she went ahead and did it. Wow. So like there was something off technically there.
Yeah. So yeah, little strange start. Now a couple of surprises there. The second match in the women's tag match might very well be just second to the main event as far as the matches that I enjoyed the most. I thought that was a really solid match. Really liked seeing the crowd response to Natalya and Tamina. That was a nice, pleasant surprise there. We had stellar matches throughout the night. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, I thought was fantastic. We had a lot of overall good wrestling. I was excited to see Rhea Ripley get the victory, but I think the main points were the main event, the pleasant surprise with the women's tag, and overall how digestible 2 nights of WrestleMania were. Now, once you get out of this thing, and that's most likely not going to be an option going ahead, like we were discussing last week. You've got to be able to sell tickets pretty far in advance, and you're not going to want to take a chance, a year or even 6 months in advance of what night you're buying. That can just get a little bit hairy there. And, going full capacity, you're going into 100,000 seat venues like Dallas next year. So the likelihood of us having these 2-night WrestleManias in the future is probably very unlikely, but I enjoyed it for what it was, and I enjoyed the special feeling of the weekend. You really got to kind of have it broken up, have each night in these digestible chunks. First night was 4 hours. Second night, I think, clocked in around 3.5.
I'm curious. You say digestible in chunks all at the same time, like you're not talking about a medical issue. That makes me uncomfortable.
yeah, that's the terminology I use.
All right, let's talk about NXT from last night. The show opens with the brand new NXT heavyweight champion, Karrion Kross. I love Scarlett, don't get me wrong, but her entrance at NXT Night 2 for the main event, or the title match, excuse me, I felt that she was, the convulsing was a little bit too much. I love the entrance, don't get me wrong, but it was definitely dialed down last night, a lot better. Karrion Kross looks every bit the champion now. Yeah. Remember, he should have been the champion before, got hurt during the championship match when he beat Keith Lee. Let's hope that he can carry it on now. No pun intended to the carrion.
He's just carrying on.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought it was a really solid promo. He looks to have even more of a resolve than he has had thus far. I thought he looked really good with the title. Thought he sounded really good, and it was a borderline babyface promo, wasn't it?
It was. You know what? If you think you want a shot at the belt, come and get it. That's what he said. So, Damien, what's your name again? Team Matt Damien?
Team Matt Thomas. Damien, yeah.
Yeah, Matthew Thomas. Who's the next challenger?
That's a good question. I don't know that.
I don't know that there is one.
Do we? They really haven't run in the same circles, man. But after NXT Stand and Deliver, maybe Kyle O'Reilly.
Maybe Kyle O'Reilly will be on the program next week, coming back from the brutal beating that they gave each other in that main event, Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. But Finn Balor rematch, Kyle O'Reilly. Does Finn Balor come back up to SmackDown possibly?
You know what I think they did a great job of last night that I think they fell short of on Raw. Even if Balor is still in the picture, you didn't go immediately into it. It did not feel immediately like the same old song and dance. Unfortunately, I feel like that's kind of what you got on Raw a couple of nights ago with McIntyre back in the hunt. Yeah. And even if that's the way they're going on NXT, I felt like NXT overall had a much more of a reset, restart, post-WrestleMania feeling than Raw did this week.
Okay. All right, let's move on. NXT Tag Team Champions MSK defeating Killian Dane and Drake Maverick, retaining the NXT Tag Team titles. Now, Killian Dane and Drake Maverick won a pre-show match on Sunday. On the pre-show on Thursday, Night 2, to get this title shot. Great showing. Imperium with an issue at the end, attacking Killian Dane. The winners and still champions, MSK.
I thought this was fine. I think this was fairly predictable, but it was a good first match to open the show. It did what it needed to do.
Mercedes Martinez defeats Jessie Kamaya with Robert Stone and Aaliyah. Mercedes Martinez looking strong again. Set up by a little backstage action there. Nothing real big happening here, But I do want to talk about something that happened backstage. Roderick Strong meets William Regal in the office, hands in his resignation. Roddy apparently gone from NXT.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just off TV for a little while or we got somebody moving to another brand, but it's post WrestleMania. It's time for people to start moving.
The NXT Cruiserweight Champion had to defend his belt, came out looking strong out of the NXT Stand and Deliver Night 2. He held the belt for less than a week. Your new champion, Kushida, defeating Santos Escobar for the Cruiserweight Championship.
And Kushida, at least his in-ring gear, I think he still had some of it on when he came in the ring, but for the most part, his in-ring gear dropping the Marty McFly stuff, which I thought made all the difference in the world. I've never understood that gimmick, and it's just an absolute distraction for me in the past when I've watched him. I thought this was fantastic. I thought the booking of this was really good. It was right in the middle of the show, and this was an outstanding match. I really like the false finishes, and I like the finish coming from like that roll-up reversal.
Yep.
NXT has done a great job recently of not sticking to the format of false, finishing move, false finish, finishing move, false finish. It's not this overutilization of finishing moves. We've had a lot of NXT matches recently that have ended like you would expect a shoot sport to end. This was no exception. I thought it was an outstanding match, and I'm excited to see his run here.
Did you notice that Kushida's left wrist, left forearm, the tape job? He painted a watch on his tape.
I didn't catch it, but that's brilliant.
It's what about Santos Escobar winning a ladder match to unify the Cruiserweight Championship and then dropping the title 5 days later or 6 days later?
It's good to see every once in a while because it keeps you on your toes. It makes you not too comfortable trying to predict what they're going to do. I like it.
The doggy has been identified, and it belongs to Frankie Monet. Matthew Thomas, Frankie Monet, formerly Taya Valkyrie from Impact Wrestling, has debuted in NXT, confronting Raquel Gonzalez. Now, after she said she's putting everybody on notice, to finish it up, Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair show up on NXT, and they celebrate their women's championship. Raquel Gonzalez, the NXT Women's Champion, Bianca Belair, the SmackDown Women's Champion, Rhea Ripley, the Raw Women's Champion. A new era in women's wrestling.
This was that special night after WrestleMania night, which was actually 2 nights after WrestleMania moment that you got. Coming off of Mania, this was that moment of the beginning of the next week. And I thought this was fantastic, and it really felt special.
8-person mixed tag team match for the main event. Bronson Reed, Dexter Lumis, Shotzi Blackheart, and Ember Moon, the women's tag team champions, defeating The Way, which is Johnny Gargano, Austin Theory, Candice LeRae, and I almost said Shotzi again, Indy Hartwell. The story I take out of here that actually entertained me to no end was Indy Hartwell laying in the middle of the ring and having Dexter come check on her. And then Austin Theory attacks Dexter. She goes, "What are you doing, dummy?" And then goes and passes out again on purpose and lays at the end for him to come rescue her. And then as she's being carried off by Dexter Lumis, she looks back smiling and gives the big wink. Wow, she found herself a man.
This was fun. And when you look at the card for the rest of the night, maybe on paper, it doesn't necessarily make sense to close the show, especially when you had an absolute show stealer of a wrestling match in the Cruiserweight title match. But what I think was really accomplished here was it did feel more important because it was the last match on. And I'm typically not a huge fan of 8-person tag matches. We get 17,
especially intergender, because they can't wrestle. Can't wrestle each other.
But this was fun. The bit of intergender stuff they did do, I thought worked really well. And there's so many stories here. You've got Austin Theory with his relationship with Dexter Lumis. He did kidnap him, and then you've got Indy Hartwell.
Yeah, Indy wanted to be kidnapped
here. Yeah, there were so many threads here. And this was just fun, and I thought it was a really good bookend to a really solid NXT. NXT last night, I felt like really built as it went on. The first two matches, although they were fine, we left it out, but something else that was a really big highlight for me was the Swerve Scott match.
The Isaiah Swerve Scott and Leon Ruff.
Yeah, this was fun, high flying as you'd expect it. And the more and more I see of Swerve Scott, the more I'm convinced you've got an absolute star on your hands.
Okay, let's talk about the stars of AEW tonight on Dynamite. Darby Allin and Matt Hardy in a Falls Count Anywhere match for the TNT Championship.
This is fun. I think it'll be a great match, and I think it further helps Darby Allin to mix it up with the likes of Matt Hardy. And I like what they're doing with him and the whole fighting champion thing. Last week we got the guy's name escapes me, but it was basically kind of a call up, I believe, from one of the dark shows. And it was bringing somebody on Dynamite that you don't normally see. Now, this week, we're going to Matt Hardy, somebody that has been a mainstay in the industry for years. So I like the diversity of the people Darby Allin's facing week to week. And this is going to be a fun match.
Okay, here's some of the other matches that are announced. Jade Cargill taking on Red Velvet. We've also got the Young Bucks in a title match against the Death Triangle. And Chris Jericho taking on Dax Harwood. Now, Chris Jericho, AEW roster member, was on the Broken Skull sessions with Stone Cold Steve Austin on the Peacock Network. This was the Forbidden Door theory blown out of the water. Chris Jericho, an AEW superstar, was on WWE programming over the weekend. Matthew, have you got to see it yet? Because if you haven't, I'd like to talk about it this week. But let's talk about
not
Chris
yet.
Jericho.
It's on the list. No pun intended on the list. But no, I'm anxiously awaiting that. Stone Cold does such a good job with those as it is, and especially having this dynamic. I can't wait.
Lots of AEW talk on that show. And honestly, I thought, because I've seen it, we'll talk more about it this coming Friday morning, but lots of AEW talk on the show. I thought it was handled with such professionalism. If this is the new state of professional wrestling, where the companies talk nice to each other, my God.
Well, not only that, but from a WWE perspective, it looks like you've got all this confidence when you're okay with that. If you're okay with somebody else coming in talking about what they do as opposed to just slamming the actual door in their face, I think it plays very well for WWE in a lot of ways. I mean, if you look at the reverse psychology of it, it's almost like they're viewing them not as a threat, which I don't know if that's the right way to view it or the wrong way, but it makes WWE look pretty big in this situation.
We'll talk about a Friday morning, Matthew. I want you to get that in. It's clocks in at over 2 hours, so I want you to get that whole show in there because we got a lot to talk about. Again, I've interviewed Chris Jericho, probably my worst interview ever, but I've done it. So very interesting. Whoa, I started fanboying out there too. Very interesting, to say the least. 2 hours with Stone Cold Steve Austin. So that is Wednesday morning. Where are we? How old is this cheese? That is Wednesday morning's PWR today. For Matthew Thomas on the Man They Call Meathead. Hey, thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow morning. So long, everyone.